A semi-formal letter can be of two types. Either it's a person who used to have authority over you but doesn't have authority anymore, right? Or it could be a person that could have authority over you in the future, right? Either somebody that used to have authority but does not have authority anymore, or somebody that could have authority over you in the future. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Success Academy. I'm Sheshan Dias, and in this video we are going to talk about how to write a letter for general writing part 1 in your IELTS exam. Letter writing can be quite a daunting task for a lot of people who are facing the general test. But if you have watched my video on essay writing, you would understand that writing an essay is a simple matter of following the correct structure. Similarly, letter writing is just a matter of following a number of simple instructions and identifying the basics of what you need to do. So without further ado, let's dive in to this video. Okay, so before we go into the structure itself, let's first understand some basics. For writing part 1, you have a total of 20 minutes. Now, if you were an academic test taker, you would have to take this full 20 minutes, give or take, because the report writing section can be a bit difficult, especially since you have to identify where the lines have gone, what the percentages are, what's the x-axis, y-axis. There's a lot to think about. But the good thing for general test takers is with a letter, you have none of these problems. So 20 minutes can actually be too much time for you to write your part 1 answer. Therefore, I would strongly advise try to finish your letter within 15 minutes or less. 20 minutes, taking 20 minutes, there's nothing wrong with it. It's completely fine. But if you can finish it within 15 minutes, that gives you 45 minutes to focus on your essay, which is more important. All right. So for your letter, you get a total of about 33% of your mark, which is 1/3 of the mark that you're getting overall. Therefore, like I said, if you can finish this in 15 minutes, you would have more time for the remaining 66% of your mark, which comes from writing the essay. All right. You have to write a total of 150 words. That's a minimum of 150 words. Ideally, 175 to 200 words would be perfect. Okay, so if you can aim for 175 to 200, that would be the ideal amount of words. Then let's quickly go through the marking criteria as well. If you have watched my videos on academic writing or essay writing, you would know that writing in general has 4 marking criteria that you have to adhere to. For writing task 1, you have task achievement. Task achievement is more or less your ability to answer the question without going off topic and sticking to the parameters of the question itself, as opposed to bringing in your own opinion. With the essay, this was different. If you remember, with the essay, you always had to give your opinion and elaborate your point of view. Whereas with writing part 1, regardless of whether it's the letter or whether it's academic report writing, you have to keep your opinion out the door and only write what is relevant to the question. Clear? That's task achievement. Lexical resources is your second marking criteria. Lexical resources, as we have discussed many times before, is quality vocabulary, ensuring that you're using good synonyms, good vocabulary when you're writing your answer. Then you have grammatical range and accuracy, ensuring that you maintain correct grammatical structures and use correct grammar when writing your answer. Finally, you have coherence and cohesion, maintaining a good structure throughout the entirety of your letter, as well as the connection you maintain between each part or each paragraph of your letter. All right, so that's the marking criteria that we focus on for letter writing. It's no different to what we have learned in the past. All right, then we come to the letter itself. Okay, there are 3 types of letters that you have to be aware about: formal letters, semi-formal letters, and informal letters. We'll discuss very soon how to distinguish between each of these different types of letters. Alright, but before that, let me give you a few pointers that you have to keep in mind when writing any of these three kinds of letters. Regardless of whether you're writing a formal, semi-formal or informal, here are a few things that you always have to keep in mind. Number one, you have to ensure that the purpose of the letter is clearly presented. Now, the way that you present your purpose will depend from letter to letter, but regardless of the type of letter, always there has to be a purpose that you clearly state. Why am I writing this letter? What is the purpose of me writing this letter? That has to be very clearly mentioned. Alright. Number two is that the tone of the letter has to be appropriate. What you have to keep in mind is all three letters you have to maintain a sense of formality. Only in informal letters can you include a bit of informal words, but not too much. It can't be completely informal. It can't sound like you're just speaking to somebody. There has to be a sense of formality even in an informal letter. So the tone, regardless of what type of letter it is, has to be appropriate. Alright. Point number three is that all bullet points have to be presented, highlighted and expanded on. Clear? So every bullet point that you get, you usually get 3 bullet points. You have to make sure to speak on all 3 or to write on all 3. You can either divide this into 3 paragraphs and write it, which can be quite tedious and long, or else you could just divide this into 2 paragraphs, but make sure you include all 3 points that are mentioned. Clear? And finally, you have to maintain a letter format or a letter structure, which we will be discussing now. So these 4 things make sure to keep in mind when you're writing any type of letter. Okay? Okay, now let's look at the structure of a letter. First of all, what you have to know is you don't have to write any addresses. Now, when you were doing O-levels or A-levels, you would have written sender's name, receiver's name, this name, that name, address, whatever. None of those things are necessary when you're writing a letter for IELTS. You simply start with a greeting. Dear sir or madam. If it's an informal letter, you say dear Kasun, Sunil, Kamal, whatever. You say dear, and then you say, if it's formal, you say sir or madam. If it's informal, you say Kasun and whatever name who you are writing to. Clear? So you start always with a greeting. Next, you directly go into the letter body. It's more or less, think of it as writing an email, right? You simply write whatever greeting you want to, and then you directly dive into the body of the letter that you want to write. That is divided into a number of different sections, which we'll discuss in a moment. But greeting, body, and finally you have the closing, where you say yours sincerely, yours truly, and then you write your full name. That is the overall structure. That's more or less your introduction, body, and conclusion that you used to write in your essay. So you have a greeting, main body, and closing. So dear sir or madam, then you elaborate on your body paragraph, and finally you have a closing where you say yours sincerely, Shashan Dias. That's your overall structure. Now the question is, how does this body divide into different paragraphs? Alright. The first thing that you have to do here is you have to have an opening statement. Think of your opening statement as a sort of an introduction. Now, what you write in this opening statement can depend on the type of letter you're writing. So, for example, if it's a formal letter, you write something different for your opening statement. If it's an informal letter, you write something different. Okay, but just keep in mind, there is an opening statement. There is an introduction to this body paragraph that you're writing. After the opening statement, you explain your situation. So this is where you, for the first time, highlight your problem. Right? You highlight your problem. You say, this is my problem. This is why I am writing this letter. Clear? After that, you elaborate that problem. You describe that problem. You talk about the problem in detail. Alright. So if you are, for example, looking for new accommodation in a foreign country, you talk about why you want that type of accommodation. What type of accommodation are you looking for? What should be included in your ideal accommodation? All of these things you talk about when describing your problem. Next, you talk about the solution. What would you like to happen ideally? Right? If your problem is finding a 2-bedroom apartment in a city that is close to the university that you're applying to, then tell whoever you're writing to that you would like to find a place like this. So you describe the solution, you talk about the solution or what you would like to happen. So opening statement, explain the situation, describe the problem, give the solution, and finally you have a closing statement. Your closing statement is not your overall closing or the letter ending, right? The letter ending is yours sincerely, Shashandas. The closing statement is looking forward to a speedy response, looking forward to your prompt response. We can also say hoping to hear from you soon. Something like that. A final closing line saying that you hope to receive a letter back from this person, that you hope to hear back from this person. So that is essentially how your body paragraph gets elaborated. So what is your overall structure? You have a greeting, body paragraph, and you have your closing, your ending. The body paragraph elaborates as opening statements, explain the situation, describe the problem, give the solution, closing remarks or closing statements. These 5 things you have to include in your letter. Clear? Okay, the next thing that you have to understand is what do you include in your opening statement when writing different types of letters? Alright, now we are going to talk about how to distinguish between formal, semi-formal and informal. Once we talk about that, I'll tell you what you need to write in your opening statements. Okay. In order to distinguish between a formal, informal and a semi-formal letter, there is a very simple method. Okay. If the person that you are writing the letter to is directly above you in terms of status or authority, then you are writing a formal letter. Understand that very clearly. If the person that you are writing to has direct authority, direct status over you, then you're writing a formal letter. What does that mean? Direct authority over you. Okay. Imagine the boss in your company. If you write to your boss saying, "Hey Machang, what's up? How's it going?" Right? Your boss will he'll think you're very responsible to begin with. He won't really give you a lot of respect on the other side. Because when you're writing a letter, you have to maintain a sense of formality. Because that person has direct power over you, direct authority over you. If you make a mistake, he has the power to fire you, right? Direct authority. If someone can influence your life directly, if they can fire you from your job, if it's a teacher directly who is teaching you at the moment, if they can scold you or hit you, that person has direct authority. If you are writing a letter, let's say for example to the head of the municipal council, right? That person has direct authority over you because you're living in his municipality area. Let's say for example, you're writing to the manager of a company. That manager has direct authority over you because that person can decide whether to accept whatever request you're asking him for or not. Whenever a person has direct authority or status over you, then you're writing a formal letter. Then what is a semi-formal letter? A semi-formal letter can be of 2 types. Either it's a person who used to have authority over you but doesn't have authority anymore, right? Or it could be a person that could have authority over you in the future, right? Either somebody that used to have authority but does not have authority anymore, or somebody that could have authority over you in the future, right? So say for example, something like this. Imagine that you have an ex-boss that you are friends with now, right? He used to be your boss when you were working in your previous company. Now you don't work there anymore, but still the boss and you are friends, right? But still, although you're friends, you still maintain a level of respect for him. You're not going to be very informal with him or crack the same jokes that you would do with a normal friend, right? You're still going to have a level of respect for that person. So he used to have authority over you, but not anymore. Think of an ex-teacher, a teacher who used to be in your school. I mean, now when we go back to school, we don't necessarily give them the same respect that we used to give them back in school, because there it used to be a combination of fear, and they had direct authority over us. They could hit us, scold us, whatever. Now they can't do any of those things, but still we respect them. We give them a level of respect. They are now our friends. Our teachers are now our friends, but we give them a level of respect, right? That would be a semi-formal letter that you're writing. An informal letter is quite straightforward. It's someone in the same status as you are. Usually very easy to identify. It says you're writing to a friend. Most of those instances you would be writing, if it's a friend or family member, then you will most probably be writing an informal letter. That is how you distinguish between formal, semi-formal and informal letters. Clear? Okay, now we have to understand what we need to include when we are writing the purpose of our letter depending on the different type of letter. If you are writing a formal letter, you have to immediately state the purpose of writing that letter. There is no opening statement where you ask that person how they are doing. If they are doing good, you don't tell them how you're doing. None of that matters. If you're writing to your boss to ask for some kind of report or to give him an update on a report, you're not going to say, "Hi boss, how are you? Hope you're doing well. I am doing good." All of that is irrelevant. If you're writing to your boss, you simply say, "Dear sir, I am writing this letter to inform you the update on our latest progress report." You directly start with, "I am writing this letter." Clear? I am writing this letter. That is how you start any formal letter. Alright. If you are writing a semi-formal or an informal letter, it's someone that you're friends with typically. Right? Even if it's your ex-boss or ex-teacher, or if it is your friend, you would of course have to ask them how they are doing. How you can tell them how you are doing. You can talk about the previous times that you met. You can say you're looking forward to meeting them. This can be your opening statement, right? And then you say, "I am writing this letter for this purpose." For example, if you are writing a letter to, let's say, an ex-boss, asking him for a recommendation letter. Let's say you talk to him by name. "Dear Mr. Dias, hope you are doing well. It has been some time since we last met. I am writing this letter to ask you for a favor." There. Hope you are doing well. How are you? Hope you are doing well. I am writing this letter for this purpose. Do you understand what I'm saying? With an informal letter, it can be the same thing. You're asking a friend to come on a trip with you. So you're saying, "Dear cousin, hope you are doing well. Hope you are having a great time in Germany. I too am looking to travel overseas next month. I'm looking to go to Australia. I am writing this letter to ask if you would like to join me in Australia." Look at that. You ask them how they're doing. You say, "Hey, hope you're having a great time wherever you are. I hope to do this. Would you like to join me? I'm writing this letter to ask you to join me." Do you understand what I'm saying? It's very simple, very clear. All right. Okay, so here are the different types of letters that you can get. So if you look at the formal side, you'll see a letter of complaint, letter of request, a letter of inquiry, a letter of recommendation, a letter of suggestion. Then on the informal side, you'd see a letter of invitation, letter of request, letter of thanks or appreciation, letter of suggestion. Guys, don't try to study, what these types of letters are and what these types of letters are. When you get the letter, just try to understand, okay, is the person I'm writing to, do they have direct authority over me? Do they have indirect authority over me? Or are they my peer? That's the easiest way to identify which letter to write. Don't try to study, okay, letter of suggestion means it's a formal letter. No, if you try to do that, you're going to get confused because all these types of letters are interchangeable. A letter of suggestion is there for both formal and informal. Don't try to really get into detail about this. Just keep what I told you in mind. Alright? Alright, so next what I want you to do is understand the difference between formal and informal vocabulary. Guys, keep in mind there is so much more than what I have just given here. So if you want to get access to our full information bank and our IELTS video course, make sure to call us on the number below and get access to that, because we have elaborated everything there. And the information bank, which you get free of charge if you purchase the video course, has hundreds of formal and informal vocabulary that you can use for not just letter writing but also for essay writing as well. But just to give you an idea here, Now, if you are writing to, let's say, your boss, you can't say, send me the report by 6:30 today, right? You have to request it from him at his earliest convenience. So for example, you would say, I would like to request the progress report for this year, and I would greatly appreciate if you could send it to me at your earliest convenience. All right. So you're saying request at your earliest convenience. You're not saying send it today by 6:30. All right. So that's the difference between writing a formal and an informal letter, and also the difference between formal and informal vocabulary. So instead of saying ask, you would say request. Instead of saying can you send it, could you send it? Will you send it? Would you send it? When you're free, at your earliest convenience. Can't. Remember, you can't write the word can't, right? You can't write abbreviated words. You have to always write cannot. Clear? Regardless of whether it's formal or informal, right? Instead of saying and or also, you can say furthermore, moreover. Can I tell you? Can I suggest? All right. This is the difference between formal and informal vocabulary. You can easily search it up on Google, guys. There are so many hundreds and thousands of different words that you can find. But at the same time, if you want all of that researched information for free, just purchase our video course and you get all this information. So you don't have to go and search online. Everything has been done for you. You can just go and check our very neatly curated information bank to get all this information. Okay, so let's now look at an example of a formal letter. This is a letter of complaint. What you have to understand about letters of complaint is that they are always formal. There is never an informal letter of complaint. All letters of complaint are formal letters, right? Look at how we have started. Dear manager. We can also say dear sir, all right? We can't say dear Mr. Kasun or dear Kasun. Clear? We always have to maintain either the title or the word sir or madam. Clear? I would like to express my regret at having dined at your establishment last night. Look at that. His opening statement is that he has directly got to the problem. He has directly written his purpose, right? I am writing this letter to express my regret at having dined at your restaurant, right? Please allow me to explain. The table was booked 2 months in advance since it was to cater a major professional event, and yet we were informed by the maitre d' upon arrival that there were no tables sufficiently large and we would have to dine separately. I did press this point with your staff as it was imperative that my party remain in each other's company, but we were told that it was simply impossible to seat us all together. So you can see here that they are elaborating the problem, right? The person who's written this letter is now elaborating his problem. He has first given the opening statement, which was to explain the purpose of his letter, and now he is elaborating the problem. He has gone on to elaborate it further by saying, in addition to this, several menu items were unavailable on the night, including every vegetarian option, meaning that 3 members of my party were left to eat only bread throughout the meal. As a result of these incidents, I had intended not to pay, but your staff informed us that they would call the police if we refused, and so to avoid further embarrassment, I complied. Clear? So they have further elaborated the problem. Now this person is going to say what he would like to happen. What is the solution? They're going to elaborate the solution. This experience was entirely unacceptable and I would like to request a full refund of the amount paid. They are explaining the solution. All right. I would also suggest that your staff not promise customers degrees of service that they are unable to provide in order to avoid disappointing experiences such as these. We are elaborating the solution. We are elaborating the solution to the problem. Then we are going to write our closing statement. Hope to hear from you immediately. Right? That's the closing statement. Hope to hear from you immediately. Then the ending, regards, Kasundayas, the full name. Remember, if you are writing formal or semi-formal letters, always write your full name, no exceptions. If you are writing an informal letter, you can either write your full name if you want to, or write just your first name if you prefer to do that. There is no steadfast rule saying you only have to write your first name or both names. You can choose which one, but for formal and semi-formal, this is a formal letter, you have to write your full name. clear? So you see the structure in which it has been written. It has been elaborated well. Each point has been elaborated in detail. Is that clear? Alright. Now we look at an informal letter. Dear Cousin. Look at how they have started. No dear sir, dear Mr. Dias, nothing. Dear Cousin. Right? Very simple. I hope you're well. Look, that's the opening statement. They are asking how the other person is. If it's a semi-formal or an informal letter, you can do that. I hope you're well. I am writing to invite you to a party I'll be having next Friday, the 17th of December. I'm not sure if you've heard the news, but I proposed to my girlfriend Sally last week. So this person has been very direct as to why he's writing the letter. He has directly given his solution, right? The solution in the sense, he has outlined the purpose of his letter, right? I hope you're well. I'm writing to invite you to a party I'll be having next Friday, the 17th of December. I'm not sure if you've heard the news, but I proposed to my girlfriend Sally last week. This is a very exciting time in our lives, and we would like to formally celebrate the engagement with our family and friends. Not only will it be a fun gathering, but we will all be able to catch up and spend some time together. Since the guest list is quite extensive, we have decided to have the party at Café Francia's restaurant in Paris. If you will be coming from your city though, it would be best to take the highway south for 30 miles and then take the Steel Town 19A exit. The restaurant is about 100 feet from the exit on the left hand side. Given the fact that the weather forecast is calling for a snowstorm next Friday, we have blocked off a few rooms at the hotel next to the restaurant. Having said that, I would be happy to pay for your room since you would be traveling quite a bit in order to celebrate with us. I hope you will be able to join for the festivities. Sincerely, Sam Mendes. Right here I've given the full name, but you can opt to write your first name as well. Right? The closing sentence is, I hope you'll be able to join us for the festivities. Keep in mind, each bullet point that has been given in the question has to be elaborated on, and you have to stick to that overall structure of greeting, body, and then finally the ending. Alright. The body paragraph, it divides into opening statements, stating the purpose, describing the problem, giving your solution, closing statements. Alright, so 5 sections have to be included. It can be divided into 2 or 3 paragraphs. Alright, 2 or 3 paragraphs. Okay, so I hope that this lesson was clear. I hope you understood how to write a letter for writing task 1 of the general writing test of the IELTS exam. Alright, so if you would like to purchase our video course and learn more about this in detail and get free access to our information bank along with that, you could purchase our video course or you could sign up for our 10-day IELTS program. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and share this with your friends. Comment down below what more you would like to learn, or if you found this video educational. Click the notification bell so that you would be informed of all the videos that we put forward in the future. So with that, we are done for today. Till our next video, keep practicing.